Hello there, friends, and welcome back to SADPP. It's episode number 9. Another Sunday has gone by, and here we are with another member of the South American Dota 2 community. He's had a couple different names. You probably know him right now as MrAvoPlus. In my head, I think Mr. Avocado, but in my memories, I think D Swordfish. So, my friend, excited to have you here, and how the hell are you?
Yeah, I'm doing quite fine on this wonderful night. 2 a.m., perfect time for podcasting, of course. My neighbors really love me. And yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
So where are you right now? We're going to cover a whole bunch of stuff, but despite being a man of South America, you're over in one of those other time zones, right?
Yeah, I'm in Malaysia. I'm in Kuala Lumpur. I'm in the capital of Malaysia here.
I see. So what's going on over there? That's ePulse related stuff, right?
Yes. I came here I can't remember quarantine time, I think a year and a half ago, more or less, I came around here. Around like 2 summers ago. And then, the ePulse just had a studio in Kuala Lumpur, so they shipped me here from Scotland where I was studying back then. Oh. And haven't been back since, unfortunately, due to COVID. COVID really destroyed my social relationships in Spain, but
So you were studying in Scotland, but before that you were living in Spain. So you're a Spain Spanish speaker, not a Peru Spanish speaker.
Indeed.
Correct?
I'm fully 100%. My dad is from Extremadura, which is in the west of Spain near Portugal, and my mom is from Catalonia. So I'm fully 100% Spanish.
Well, so did I fuck up then? I mean, do you consider yourself like a member of the South American Dota community, or are you just you're an EU boy that happens to speak Spanish, dude? You're like a defector.
Well, it was actually really funny because in the last cast, because I was doing SADPP right in Spanish, and the last cast we got to do was the last cast of the league before like tiebreakers and stuff. I was casting with Choco. I've known him for like 3-4 years, a very big Spanish caster, and he starts the cast by I don't know why it came up. He just said, "Oh, and here is MrAvoPlus. You guys might know him as the Spaniard, but he's truly pretty much a Peruvian at this point because he's been with us for so long." And I can't tell you how heartwarming that was, man. That was like one of the nicest things anyone's ever said to me, particularly because of my own relation with my country. I don't love the whole idea of being Spanish. I haven't lived in Spain for a while. There's a reason for it. The community there never treated me nicely. So when the South Americans embraced me, it was very, very nice. I felt really touched there.
Do you mean like the general community in Spain or the Dota community in Spain?
I mean, the Dota community was nice, but the esports community in Spain is not so nice. Dota is very small, so it's much more about the individual. So if you get lucky, there's I'm not kidding, like 20, 25 players in the Dota community in Spain. It's a very small game there.
I see.
So those people are nice. They're more individuals. But when you get into the general esports community and you get some of the more prevalent issues in Spain, mainly discrimination and stuff like that, it's a bit less. One of the reasons they don't like me is because I actually work with South Americans. They don't like that. They think I'm a traitor to my nation, which I think is the stupidest thing I ever heard in my life.
Well, I was going to say, how's Brazil on that? Are they nice when it comes to esports? That's an interesting metric to me. I don't know where Brazil would rank on that chart.
I would say we are as a community, we are pretty nice. I think overall there's always that 1, 2, 3.
You guys support your own
that,
a lot.
Yes, but there are a couple of people that get the bad fame, but overall I would say we're nice. But I was gonna say though, I'm learning Spanish, and I did figure out there's a lot of differences in between Spanish from South America and Spain Spanish. Yep. So if you're in South America, Zyori, and you want to get a bus, you usually say, "I'm going to coger el autobús." But if you're in Spain, coger actually has a pretty demeaning meaning.
It's the opposite way around, but yes, it's South America where it has a meaning. Yes.
Okay, sorry.
In South America, they use agarrar instead of coger when they mean to say to grab something, right?
Yes, and coger.
What does it mean, sorry, what does it mean, Bowie? What does it mean, South America?
It would mean something like to fuck.
So
yeah,
do it.
And exactly. So be careful. All right.
Yeah,
but anyways,
it's tough out there, man. I don't know. I think that's one of the fundamental challenges of South America. Like, I think of it just Spanish and Portuguese, and then within Portuguese, you've got Portugal Portuguese, Brazil Portuguese, and then within Spanish, you've got like European Spain Spanish and South American like Peru Spanish. I guess there's a lot of different Spanish in South America and Central America, but the region is just so, like, compared to Southeast Asia, where I normally draw that parallel, at least English is a unifier there. Like, that region is so diversified that, and if everybody speaks English, and then that allows, like, us to do commentary there, but there's basically zero demand for English commentary for Dota in South America. It's just all this region specific. I'm sure people from Portugal don't like listening to people from Brazil and vice versa, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, depends. Some people in South America do find they have. It's a very common trope among Hispanics that we are both the most proud people and also and this refers to Spain as well. We're the most proud and also the most embarrassed. Like, we kind of admit our own issues in history, because most of our history is like a combination of like, wow, and also, oh my god, how could you do this? So it's because of that, a lot of people in South America, there's like a very big division between those that only listen to Spanish content and they like their content better, and then those that find that Spanish content is inferior, regardless of the quality of the content, but just by the act of being Spanish. So they set themselves apart, and they'll be like, no, I listen to the English cast. You can't imagine how many viewers will listen to me in Spanish and be like, I like Avo, but in English, he just sounds better. And I'm like, nah, it's the exact same voice. It's the exact same person.
That's pretty
It's just
funny.
your idea of the language. Yeah.
That's pretty funny. And by the way, what is the difference between a Latino and Hispanic? Are those? I think we use those interchangeably in America, and I don't know if that's actually correct.
Well, because I don't use the term Latino because a lot of I don't have as much interaction. I mean, now I do with Richie because he's also Mexican American, but I don't have many interaction with South American immigrants in America. So I'm not really sure what they like being called. But a lot of South Americans, the idea of being Latino is like it's not true to your heritage, because Latino kind of implies, first of all, the word itself, it takes away from the original heritage of the South Americans, right? Like the indigenous heritage. So it's by saying, no, you're Latin now. Like referring to the Romance languages, right? You're Latin, you're ours. And that's not great. Whereas Hispanic acknowledges more along the lines that you're part of the Spanish culture, which is true for at least everything but Brazil, right? In South America. And well, in French Guinea as well. So usually I use the term Hispanic to refer to the general Spanish culture. And I try to use Latino. I only use it in like specific contexts with people have told me it's okay. But usually I try to avoid that word.
Bowie, is that your understanding as well?
I would say so.
Okay.
Like, I think most people in Brazil don't even like have that. I don't think I'm not going to say care, but it's definitely something that people don't think about that much, But I would say he's right. I would say overall. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, well, that's one
usually
thing.
Use the country.
Yeah,
the country is the best way to refer to them. Like if you don't want to, like I only use Hispanic to refer to like the language or the general Hispanic culture. But like usually it's like they're Peruvians, they're Argentinians, they're Chileans. They have nothing to do with each other.
Yeah,
so
I see.
Differentiating them is important.
Separated by country. Okay, no, that's a good distinction. Yeah, and I guess I've learned a lot about let's just say South American culture when it comes to anything offensive or PC. Like the ethical compass is interesting down there. I mean, maybe that's a big topic we can dive into here as the first chunk of this podcast. I'm curious because both of you have engaged with some of my tweets. I'm sure you've seen the recent stuff with Aretes and the stuff he posted in the pub game, the racially sensitive material that now he's been suspended from the team. I think the only thing they're playing in is the BTS Americas, and he got suspended from the BTS side as well. And it started with a DM from TeaGuvnor to me, who was just kind of like, yo, man, you're more of a whistleblower than I am. What the fuck is this? And then I confirmed it on Jubei's stream and tweeted it, and then the rest is kind of history. So it was cool that LatAm Defenders as an org recognized it right away. It was more the dialogue surrounding it that, very similar to the Jericho situation, made me feel like, honestly, a lot of this, not to excuse it, there's some cultural differences here that are deep-rooted in this discussion beyond just applying the American lens. And I think that part was kind of interesting to see firsthand the spectrum of responses of people from different cultures.
Yeah, I think it's quite. I always like when that topic gets brought up, particularly because it's two things that need to get dealt with. Right? Like, as someone, I would never empathize or I will never justify someone using a racist word, regardless of where that word is racist. But it's also true that, particularly in the, I guess, in the international community, we like to call it international, but the reality is most of the policing around these ideas is American or at least Anglo-Saxon.
Yeah, and I'd say like American, North American, European. You know, like Canada's in there, the UK's in there. They're all pretty fucking PC also in terms of their lefty culture. You know,
but it's all their PC though. And one of the things I mean, I won't say I'm against PC culture because, you know, the people that say that, they really just want to say the N-word, which I don't have any need to. But I don't like the idea that these things aren't explained as often. Like, a lot of people, I understand, you know, you're in the position where you've suffered this racism at home. You don't want to have to engage with these people. But at the same time, the people you're talking to have never experienced this. They have no clue what you're talking about. They have no empathy towards you because they're ignorant, to be honest. They just don't know about your culture. And I bet if I told you a bunch of things that are racist towards my culture, you would also go, oh, wow. Like, actually, in my interactions with a bunch of American casters, I'm not going to name names, but they have said a lot of stuff to me, which is, like, properly offensive, and they have no clue. They don't know they're saying it. And I just chalk it up to saying, oh, it's ignorance, and I'm used to this. That's how I go around the world. You know, my issues are not particularly well known, so I just have to accept it. But it does suck sometimes where I just have to accept it and educate anyone else, and that I don't get that privilege of being able to say, no, this is wrong. Please don't say this, which I would love to say.
I think another part of what happened with Aretes that, you know, I totally agree with Vavo. I think I don't want to justify anything that he did. I think that's definitely wrong. But I just wonder, like, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of tier 1 players that do the same thing that he did. And, you know, why is that guy being punished when, like, there's no policing on whatever tier 1 player is doing? Even when you actually see it on Reddit or stream, like, you don't see anyone particularly calling it out, you know, unless it's like the mind control incident or something like that big. So I kind of get slightly sad that he's the one that gets punished, just because, like, it just feels like he's the smallest fish in the pond, you know.
So it does cut a couple different ways, though, and in some ways, it's like, quote, good that this happened not during DPC, because in theory, like, what's the punishment here? He's going to lose out on prize money from BTS Americas. All right. I mean, okay, you're right. That is money or whatever, but this probably isn't going to affect DPC. I'm pretty sure Valve isn't going to do anything. He's not going to be, like, barred from a LAN. And I hope that this is going to be one of those, like, okay, we've sort of made an example out of someone, and the broader conversation helps just communicate the expectations, you know, that there's more of that international lens applied. I do also agree that, like, I mean, why isn't this shit written down? For any other major sports league, you can Google their rule book. Like, you can copy paste their code of conduct. All of them have some different tweaks, but most of them have shit about ethics and insider information and match fixing. Like, they dummy proof it. You know, it's a fucking list of very clear things with definitions explained, exactly what it is, why you can't do it, and what the intention of the rule is. And as far as I'm aware, we don't really have that. I think if you get invited to TI, you get that talk. Valve actually sits down and tells you that. But if you're just invited to DPC, I don't think that's necessarily made without a shadow of a doubt obvious. And to me, that's really unfortunate. You know, it's like it's hard for anybody on our level to mass communicate that when you think about how big Valve is. It's way different if they put out that black and white that says, yo, zero tolerance. Here's the exact rule set that applies to everyone equally. We don't even have that, man.
They need to work more, putting more work into the background, right, to educate in the community. One thing I notice is that whenever, like, for example, you called out Aretes, and I thought it was the right thing to do, because I think you should call out every act of racist behavior. Yeah. But the problem is that the only thing you can truly do is calling him out, right? Yeah. And because Aretes is from a smaller team, because he's also relatively young, because he's from a different culture, you can never quite distinguish when you call out a player if it's ignorance or malice. And the distinction is important, because if someone is truly trying to be racist and continues to be racist, he needs to be kicked out of our community. I don't want that in my community. But if someone is just an idiot, like, I mean, I guess we can give them certain chances. Yeah, exactly.
I agree.
But right now we can't distinguish, because there's no encouragement towards teams teaching their players, hey, don't be idiots. Like, hey, have some empathy for your fellow man. It's not that difficult, really. You know, hey, this word offends some people. Don't use it. And in the double standards that Bo is talking about before, if you allow me to be a bit of a whistleblower myself, within the same BTS tournament, and I found this, like, one of the things that I found weird after BTS decided to also ban Aretes, because, of course, Latin defenders doing it made sense. Right. But in the own BTS tournament, one of the games that I was casting, because I'm casting the tournament in Spanish, Arkosh Gaming used the word cuck as an insult towards an enemy team. Cuck, which if used as an insult, not only shames people of a certain sexual kink, but also kind of usually enforces the whole gender normative ideals, right? The idea that you have to be the alpha male versus the beta male, kind of these ideas. And I understand this is not the same word as the N word by any means, but this is also a pro game.
We still don't know what the rules are, right? We still don't know what the line is. Yeah.
Yeah. So I found it weird that you decided to ban one player for using that word in a pub, and another player gets to use relatively derogatory language in your pro matches.
Yeah.
And you don't even say anything about it in the match itself,
That's true.
Let alone ban them.
I agree. It's different. Everything's different when it's like in your backyard, when it's your league. If this were happening in DPC, so different than when it's in a pub. Morally, it's still bad. But in terms of like the optics and the visibility, right? When there's hundreds of thousands of people watching the broadcast versus a pub that nobody's watching except for a handful of people across some different streams, just a totally different degree in terms of the reach and that impact and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I very much agree about the second chance thing. And I think the goal should be to educate and make it as easy as possible so that when we do have to punish people, it's very clear. It's like, all right, dude, you were warned. You're given a chance. You confirmed you read the rules. You checked the box. I don't know what the fuck your problem is now. Get the hell, like...
Exactly.
I think we need maybe not a 3-strike system exactly, but something to that effect where you have to. I think first offenses get a little more leniency, all things equal, especially when there's no context and stuff like that. It's just like a straight up, He's just trying to be offensive. You can tell the way this wasn't propaganda, right? That's the line that I'm drawing here. It's purely using a slur to be particularly hateful to that person because they fit into that demographic you're using the slur for. It's a very one-to-one sort of thing here. He's mad that he's playing techies. The rage is bubbling over, so he's using racist words. It doesn't make it okay, but fuck. So yeah, I did feel bad about it. Also, for the record, I mean, it was one of those like before I press tweet, I'm sitting there like, you feel bad either way, right? You'll see that somebody brings it. It's different. Like I don't watch Jube's streams, so like I'm not the lookout police. I'm not actively like looking around with my magnifying glass trying to find racism to call out. But when somebody delivers it to you on a platter, there's a degree of guilt by looking the other way, right? That's fucked up in a sense. So as much as I know it's going to hurt Aretes and I feel bad that it'll probably be disproportionately looked at, I also have to sleep with my own conscience at night, knowing that I saw something I could have called out and just purposefully went, nah, that's not me today. Like that's pretty fucked up. That's not the person I want to be either. So I don't know.
Because you can't do anything else.
Yeah.
You're in a position where that's your best bet, right? Like you have to call this out on Twitter. You can't, if you had the option to maybe approach Aretes and talk to him about this, like man to man and discuss this.
Well, so I did message the manager first before I tweeted it. And I waited.
Which one of the managers?
Hold on, I forget the name, but the man, whoever is listed as the manager for Let's Him Defenders, I think it was Blue Melbourne.
Oh yeah, Bleo. That guy's
Bleo
Melbourne.
Melbourne.
He's black as well, like full on.
I think so. He's listed as the Let's Him Defenders org, so he might be like the team
He's
manager.
One of the CEOs.
Yeah, high up at the org. Either way, he's the person I messaged. And I didn't get a response immediately. It was probably like 45 minutes or something. So I didn't like hold that against him, but I did try to like do it private first. And, not that you always have to be at your computer or be able to respond, but I extended the olive branch, but I didn't sit on it for that long. And he did message me back after I'd posted it saying like, sorry, I couldn't, I didn't have my phone on me. I was out doing stuff. I would have responded. He very quickly said, please don't take this as a sign that I was trying to avoid responding to you because I just wasn't at my computer. I would have responded if I were here. So, and based on their response, I mean, I think on an organizational level, I mean, LATAM Defenders deserves a big pat on the back. I read a lot of translated a lot of those Facebook comments. They did not get much street cred for doing that, right? The locals were not happy. So, yeah. I don't know, like big ups to them. That was awesome. That's a class act.
He's
to
a
me.
great dude. People should like he's been in the scene for I don't know 10 years or so. I remember because I started working with him maybe 6 years ago, 7 years ago. He's a graphic designer back then. He's an awesome dude. One of the few people that in the South American community has actually been committed to increasing the awareness over these things. As you say, the community has a lot of tendency towards sexism and racism, which is something that some people are worried about, but some people are not. And it's difficult when you have public figures going both ways. And Blue has been, again, his name is awful, by the way. Blue misspelled. Blue has been always on the side of like trying to call out these things, trying to improve. But of course, yeah, you can't micromanage your players, right? Again, like I'm surprised that a player who has a manager who's of that race that you're supposedly being racist against.
Yeah.
You'd still use those words, right? I don't know how that happens, but
yeah. I guess we got some basic block building to do, but so far I hesitate to say the punishment fits the crime because it's a pretty light punishment, but at the same time I don't think there's been an overreaction yet in terms of him being banned or anything like that. So
no,
that aspect I think has gone well at least. People call it cancel culture, but I would counter that with, has he really been canceled or has he just been consequenced? And so far, I think he's just been consequenced. But
for sure.
Anyway, so let's talk DPC a little bit, dude. How was your coverage? Did you do Spanish coverage for most of it, or were you doing some English? What was your spread like this season?
I was doing
Did CIS?
South America, upper and lower Spanish, North America, upper and lower Spanish, EU and CIS upper in Spanish, CIS lower English, and then also tiebreakers all in
The
English.
fuck?
CIS.
Bowie.
Yeah, I was.
What the fuck are you doing? This guy's like slaying it in all languages, all regions. You did South America in English. You could have been doing the whole world in Portuguese on the side, baby. What the hell are you doing?
I mean, the BTS has a big crew working, but they also have like I think it's a lot of people, during this COVID time. So
yeah, all right,
and they're doing everything on site. So I was a little.
I see. So
it's tougher than you think to get those gigs. Those gigs are hard. Like if I ever step my foot out of the Spanish pool for like too long, I'm out. I'm out forever.
Oh,
I have to constantly do streams or cast or talk to big personalities, all this stuff. Yeah, it's tougher. It's not like like there's some languages that are minor, maybe like French where it's easier. You can argue to get in, right? But in Spanish or Brazilian, it's quite hard.
There's a lot of passionate people trying to work for those gigs. And I mean,
So
they
many
have a
passionate-
huge structure, so it's not like I could even compete with what they were offering.
So were you on site for a lot of that coverage, Avo, or was all of this remote for you? Were you on site for the Spanish stuff?
No, I was all of this remote.
Yeah.
We all did it from the studio we have here on Epool, so it's like like a small studio broadcast. But because Peru's had a pretty hard lockdown, they were originally trying to get me on site, which I would have loved, but because I could leave this country. But unfortunately, that wasn't. It didn't pan out, mainly because COVID in Peru is quite rough, and so restrictions are very heavy,
Right.
particularly for me.
Okay. I don't want to veer too far from DPC stuff, but I'm curious why you say that about Malaysia, because I'm not going to lie, buddy. But the end of last year, before I got that Epic gig, I was looking at the old esports income, kind of like, all right, I could do one COVID year like this. I can't do 2 COVID years like this. I'm thinking about backup plans here. And backup plan like D or E was move to Southeast Asia and start racking up a bunch of English-speaking talent gigs. And I definitely thought KL was like the value spot in terms of cost of living for potential access to gigs. Are you saying Malaysia is not all it's cracked up to be, bud? Is that what? Should I avoid Operation Backup Plan D?
Well, I mean, for my personal reasons, the only reason I'll tell you why I wanted to leave this country is that I can't currently because the special visas in Malaysia and whatnot, COVID. I can't leave and come back in. And I have not seen my girlfriend in a year. I just want to see her. That's my main motivation to leave this country. But on what you point out, though, it is much more difficult than you think, mainly because a lot of people here are willing to work for. I don't think in Peanuts does it justice. I've seen monkeys in the circus get more money than these people. Like, it's ridiculous. A lot of people in SCA, the problem that they have is that they need to survive off this, right? But there's not enough gigs. And I'm not gonna lie, they face a lot of discrimination in the scene, mainly because of their accent. Because so all the English speakers who have like a bit of a Malay or Chinese accent or whatever, you're never getting those guys gigs. Like Winter was special because he's a pro player, but the majority of like hypecast or stuff like that, it's really tough for them.
Right.
So what they end up doing is they expand, as opposed to vertically, they expand horizontally into many titles. But what happens then? Their casting, unfortunately, is just not that great. Like for any game, because they just do a bunch of titles, right? So they're not specialized in any game, which means they never grow, which means their rates stay poor forever. And if they up the rates a bit, people die of hunger. Because you're literally like you're 28 at this point. You've been doing esports for 6 years. You haven't increased at all. You have like 2,000 followers on all of your social media combined. What do? You know, now you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, and it's really, really difficult to make it here. Honestly, really, really difficult because of the situation. And I don't really blame them for undercutting others because their situation is also a very tough one. Like it's not really their fault as well that they can't grow.
I mean, I think you've got commentators undercutting each other pretty much at all tiers of Dota casting across all cultures. So certainly not unique to that. But I hear you, though. That is maybe it's more competitive than I was thinking about it in my head.
It's insanely competitive here. It's like you can't imagine how many commentators I know. Like I have all my friends here are all casters, and I have like 60, 70 people in my pool, all casters of like different esports and all work in KL. It's ridiculous.
Wow. So how was Spanish coverage though for DPC? We heard basically, doing English for South America. I felt like I had to keep warning our talent, like Sweet Bowie here, like, all right, now we know the average viewership's not going to be great for a lot of this. All right, let's not look at the number. Let's just close Twitch. Let's just do the best goddamn coverage we can. And everybody embraced it. Our group was definitely professional enough. Like, who gives a shit about the clout? We're just doing our thing. People are going to tune in or they're not. A lot of it has to do with scheduling and European matches that are on at the same time as us. Anyway, it's obviously not a reflection on the broadcast itself. It's just the dense Dota schedule and our region's not high priority. Dota Pit told us consistently that in Spanish and Portuguese, we had like record-breaking numbers of viewership. Is that true? Did you guys experience that? Is it mostly on Facebook? What's Facebook chat like? Hit me with all the like juicy drama details on the broadcast side.
I mean, it was record-breaking. It was mostly... So it's interesting because Facebook has a special feature. I don't know if you know, but it's called cross streaming, where it's similar to like the Twitch,
squad streams.
The squad streams, yeah. Thank you. So they have like a cross streaming where they just add all the viewership of all the channels together, right? Very similar to the cross streaming in Twitch. But this has been a feature since day one on Facebook. It's something that really made a point to like emphasize. And so a lot of the people that they got for casting were particularly also big streamers, myself included, of course, with big social media, much bigger actually. Social media for Spanish casters is like, I'm not joking, maybe 10 times bigger than English casters. Like it's ridiculous. The top Spanish casters were talking like 500K followers, something like that.
And the engagement is way different, right? Like, because you guys
engagement is much higher.
Because you don't have Reddit or anything like that, so this is the replacement for a lot of the like centralized tools we use in the West. I've realized with this podcast, it's a totally different content distribution model, and it's sort of based around people ripping your shit off. Like that you've gone viral and everyone's just re-uploading your video to their. Like, I had to send out a few DMCAs, and everybody responded with, well, I just wanted my audience to see your content. I'm like, yeah, but you didn't give me a shout-out, dog. You just took my content and made it your content. Fuck! But I get it. It is just very different. I've asked all these people, and there is no one-to-one Reddit to English Dota for Spanish or Portuguese.
No, Facebook is the closest thing I think you get, like groups and stuff. But groups hold their own issues because of legal issues, which I won't get into.
A lot of them were pretty fucking edgy. I joined a few of them, and my God, dude. A lot of...
edgy implies you're trying to make jokes. They're just straight up racist. There's nothing edgy about it. It's absolutely horrendous.
I think sometimes in my head, I assume, like, oh, something must be getting lost in translation here. They certainly don't mean this the way the translation says it. And sometimes I fear it's worse than what the translation...
It is much worse. The chat rough. There is, it's rough. The chat in the streams itself is not that bad, or I wouldn't put it above or below English streams. I think it's more or less the same. Obviously, you have to understand their culture. So many things that would be considered very discriminatory here would not be considered discriminatory there. Like, I know one of the things I always have to, I don't gloss over this, right? But I just kind of have to accept that in any sort of comment I make that does not make me look like a macho man alpha burly male will immediately be replied with so much homophobia, such a ridiculous amount of homophobia. And they always justify by saying, oh, he's Western, he's different. Like, no, that's not how it works. I'm not... Like, they say, like, oh, it's okay that he's gay, which I'm not, but not that it bothers me, but it's okay that I'm gay because I'm Westerner. As if somehow in Spain... I don't know. It's I don't know. So there's a lot of issues with that. That's one of
Yeah.
the things you kind of have to accept when you're
Well,
streaming.
it's
there.
hard to moderate. Now that I've gone through and like painstaking, like 1-to-1 on different days, I'll ask Bowie, like, hey man, what does this mean? And then he'll ask his girlfriend and she does a little bit of research and then we figure it out. But like the Zyori is first world Jonah. If people understood what that meant, there's no way that would be acceptable by English Twitch standard.
Oh wow, yeah, I
But
understand now.
you know, yeah, she's for those that don't get it, Jonah's a transgender Peruvian streamer on Facebook.
Oh, no, yeah.
So they're just it's a twofold joke of making fun of her for not being quote first world and making fun of both of us for being transgender and disproportionately me because I'm not transgender. But it's also different because yeah, I looked at Jonah's stream though, and she like weirdly embraces it. Like their equivalent of it's not like subs, but Facebook was it super likes, whatever the fuck they call them, power fans. If she gets enough in a day, she'll like do a read in the man voice, or like she sells parts of like of what we would call dead naming or like misgendering, and it's like embrace. So part of me wonders like. Is that feeding this? Is that like cool that Jonah just completely owns this? It is kind of awesome that she just streams relentlessly and seems kind of hyposensitive to it. But at the same time, are we making it better? Like I have all these complicated thoughts in my head. I just don't know how to process any of it, man. It is so different from what it's like here in Boulder, Colorado, in terms of LGBTQ people.
One of the people I admire the most actually in the Spanish stream that does something similar that maybe you can relate to would be Choco, particularly like a man I was talking about who's a cast in most of the DPC with, and the man is black, right, straight up, not like South American, maybe like leaning towards that like full on, right, and they call him very affectionately El Negro, which means the black dude. But of course, caveat here, negro is not a bad word in Spanish like it would be in English or like.
It just
when you call
literally
someone
means black. Like when we say,
exactly.
hey, he's a black person, it's like that's the 1-to-1 translation. Yeah.
And saying El Negro, even though it doesn't sound amazing, wouldn't be immediately racist because we have other versions of that word which can be interpreted as racist, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but he embraces these terms, right? But then when it comes to people that actually are racist towards him, like a Peruvian streamer a while ago did blackface, right? That's when Choco comes out and says, yeah, which that's a whole other issue. And it was an official event and everything. Anyway, the point is Choco comes out and he says, right, this is where we draw the line. So it's interesting because he makes people think, saying, right, your jokes might be funny, but they make me feel bad. You guys love me, though. He's the most popular streamer in Peru. And I will allow you to make these jokes because it's okay. I can take him. It's not that big a deal. It doesn't make me feel bad for you to use these things as long as they're in jest. But there is a line, and you need to acknowledge that there is a line, and you guys can't actually be racist. And by having this conversation, engages the community into, well, some very needed conversation in that community, which is where is the line? What am I doing? Is it enabling racism? Am I just a product of the system, etc.? So some people really are aware of these things. And some people just don't care.
I mean, that's cool though. I'm glad to hear that. He's not somebody I recognize the name, but I don't know anything about him. If you'd asked me who's Mr. Choco as it applies to Dota, I probably would have said I think he casts Dota in some other language that isn't English, Chinese, or Russian, and that would have been about the extent of my Choco knowledge. So sorry, buddy. It sounds like you're doing God's work out there. Respect.
Yeah, I actually know about that. But he's pretty big on Twitch, right? I've seen him getting like 7K viewers in some casts.
Oh, wow.
He was the first to move to Facebook. He was the first person to move to Facebook and do the exodus because he was actually back then. Choco was beating us. He was my competition. He was destroying my casts and he was destroying all the Spanish casters because he came in as a streamer that was also casting, right? And so he came in to popularize this idea, like very simple to Bulldog or Gork. I'm going to recast games. I'm going to get games that are already officially cast. I'm going to recast them, right? The difference is that once Choco became big enough, we talked to him and we made like an alliance. Like, hey, we can't be undercut. Hey, we want these rights, these kind of things. And Choco was very open to this. He also makes a lot of jokes on his stream. He's known for making a comedic style of cast per se. The difference is his jokes tend to not be offensive compared to some English streamers.
Is he like a Spanish Silk Raisin, or is that not a complimentary one-to-one?
Less offensive, much less offensive than Silk Raisin.
Okay.
Oh God, dude, I don't think that is a fair comparison.
Well,
I
can't understand what Silk Raisin's saying, so to me, I only get the tone, and he seems like quite the clown. But is it way worse
clowny part.
than I think in my head? I mean, for what it's worth, the other day after the whole thing about Aretes came out. I hosted Jubei when I had like I don't know, 200 viewers or something. And I hung out in his chat for 30 minutes after that and just continued to be insulted and belittled by his hardcore viewers that just tried to insult me for being transgender, and none of the moderators seemed to care at all. So it was sort of an odd thing, sort of trying to be like, do the right thing, and then just see it perpetuated within that same cycle right there. Like, can I take my host back? How do I unraid? What the fuck's happening right now? So it's I've hung out in Silk Grayson's chat, but I admit I don't really know what the fuck's going on. So maybe it's a little worse than I realized.
Choco's bad.
Yeah, he's one of those like I've talked to him in person, and he's like super cool guy. But I think he ended up in a trap. Like I don't know that much about it, but if I had to guess, I think he understood how like edgy content drew a lot of viewers in the past. And I think he kind of feels trapped in the way that like he kind of needs to somehow feed that to keep getting the response.
He's the funny guy. Yeah, that's a hard thing to maintain.
The edge,
and like he says like, I mean, this is not me. This is a character and whatever. And he definitely doesn't talk like he's on stream in real life. But it's really weird, like how different they are, and it's just. It's rough. Like I think some of his content in stream is pretty
is it over the line?
Controversial.
If it were in English, it wouldn't fly.
Oh, dude,
is that what you're saying?
It would never fly. It would never fly.
Okay,
I'll tell you that. But he's a cool guy, so it's weird to me to talk about it.
So what do you guys think about Xyclopz? Because I feel very similar as you just described, Bowie, where he like seems like a cool guy to me. I've had one-to-one positive experiences with him.
Awesome.
I've heard some unsavory rumors, but truly just rumors. I've never seen evidence to back it up. But do you think that his style of casting, like, are people laughing with him or at him? Is he representing that accent and the non-perfect English speaker, or is he kind of mocking them? I mean, I know he is one of them, and it's not like a fake accent, but is it purely just mockery of himself? Is Xyclopz doing God's work, or is he just perpetuating more stereotypes? I'm not entirely sure. Maybe it's both.
I don't know that much. Like I used to watch a lot of Xyclopz, but to be honest, it's been a while since I've watched a lot of casts. I didn't see him casting recently.
Well, he fell off for a lot of the same reasons you mentioned, where I think he was stuck in that, and it's really funny for like an hour. You can't listen to a whole best of 3 of it. And he can't co-cast with anyone. So you're forever bottlenecked being this funny solo caster. Yeah, sometimes you just need to cast the fucking game and not be like an edgelord deluxe, you know? And when you're boxed into that, Barack Obama, like you can't have an original joke every game. It's just impossible, right?
Mm-hmm. It is quite funny sometimes, but I don't know. Like whenever I listen to him, I'm not particularly nice Xyclopz fan because I like listening to like good that was really offensive. Like, a proper professional cast, right? Like not a jokes cast. I also had the chance to meet him. Also swell person, very similar to you, Zyori. Like it was surprising because I'm like, dude, you and the caster are so different. And it's like he starts casting and you can see his change of persona. But he's not, the jokes that he makes are not like at his expense necessarily. They're most like word association jokes. And I've noticed that a lot of people that like him are particularly people that don't speak English as their first language. Because they associate, because these word association jokes, particularly when you're not an English speaker, are much easier to grasp. Especially because a lot of the puns. A lot of the puns and jokes that people make that are like, let's call them highbrow, which are not even that complex, but about like wordplay, stuff like that. If you're not a native English speaker, you don't get them. If you don't have a good command of your English, you don't get any of those jokes. So TeaGuvnor can be there like with his British wit and feel so proud of himself. But the reality is most people don't understand what he's saying. And it happens to me a lot in my cast too. So Xyclopz represents that population.
I did a ZyoriPlus1 with TeaGuv, and I kind of tried to tell him that, like, mate, I think you like really take for granted that you have this big 8K brain and you explain these really pedantic, minute details. It's like I love the guy. I love working with him. It's like you need to focus on remembering that most of the audience is fucking stupid compared to you when it comes to Dota. Most of the audience is like 2K or lower. You're using all these acronyms and big words and your accent and all. Like you move fast, and most of us move like 3 steps slower than this. So Just remember that you're really catering to those 8K Reddit fans right now, and a lot of the rest of us are down here. You know, sometimes I have trouble understanding his accent. I couldn't imagine if like you didn't have a great command of English. Like that really fast British banter is like I get lost if I'm watching that shit on TV without subtitles. Sometimes I gotta pause and rewind. So I can only imagine what it's like for y'all that are just working on your American English where we talk a little slower.
Well, I lived in the UK for a while enough to get used to. I mean, if I get used to the Scottish accent, anything is child's play at this point. You know, you've never gone to Glasgow, dude.
You've got a greatly unique accent. I'm a little sad that there's not more Scottish mixed in there, man. But you've got a. Have you worked on that, or has that just kind of come naturally from living in the UK and being a citizen of the world?
I went to a. My parents did me the favor, let's call it. I had the privilege to go to an American school when I was younger, so that's why my accent is very like I do think like I'm native as far as I'm concerned. You know, my English is the same level as my Spanish or my Catalan, which my mother and my father's tongue. And when my accent is weird because I noticed this with a lot of my American friends that since I didn't hear English at home, right? Because my parents don't speak it at all. My dad sometimes speaks it. Sounds like he's speaking Chinese. It's very different. He's not very good at it. So I don't have a base accent. So wherever I go, I will pick up on the words from there, like much faster than most English speakers because it's just natural to me, right? My accent is moldable. So I went to Scotland particularly. I have a lot of words I don't use anymore because English people don't understand me when I use these words. But like I have a lot of words that have full-on Scottish accents with them. Maybe the cities, for example, I still say like I try to say Sterling. Sorry, I try to say with American accent, like Sterling, I guess. But there you go. I can't do it because I always heard that word in Scottish, so I can't do it in an American accent particularly, right?
Yeah.
So that's why my accent is very all over the place, and this gets a lot of people angry as well. Because they can't figure out where I'm from, and that angers them for some reason.
Sammy, that's good for commentary, though. I mean, I'm curious how you feel about accents and stuff, Bowie. Do you feel like you have to practice out? Like, do you warm up in English before the broadcast every day when we're doing DPC? Like, is it a source of stress, or do you just let it ride?
It used to be a source of stress because in the past, I kind of had that small little dream of being not really a hypecaster, but someone that could do both. And I would definitely get a lot of complaints, like when I was having some of my content on Noob from UA. Like a lot of people, oh, this guy cannot speak English. What the hell is he saying? So like for a while, I was really obsessed with it, and I did work on it a little bit. But nowadays, like I just let it fly. Honestly, like so many of the analysts are, like if you get Lacoste. Winter doesn't stream anymore, but like you get a pretty different. There's like a gradient of like English accents, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't care that much about it. I just try to make myself understandable.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's a good baseline goal as a commentator. I think that's a good starting point.
But I kind of wanted to go back to like we're talking about Spanish and like your like cast with Choco. I kind of wanted to go back to your partnership with Seeknstrike and Valve when you guys did for the tournament.
Realms Collide.
Yeah, because I don't know if you remember this, Zyori, but at TI9, they did that content piece with Slacks in Japan, and there was another content piece done in Brazil with like the girls' tournament, the women's tournament. Do you remember that?
Oh my god, very, very vaguely.
Yeah,
I can't really picture the video, but was that the imposter edition? No.
No, it was just like
a TI piece. It was like 10-15 minute TI piece.
Okay. It was literally just a video.
So,
okay.
Like I get really perplexed because like Valve doesn't partner with a lot of people, and somehow like they did this content piece with the female tournament, only Brazilians. Like I never really understood how that worked, and I was there. It was like a pretty fun tournament. So I wanted to hear from you, like how that partnership came to be, how you guys did it.
Well, the thing is, I work with. Sorry, I just said it in English. I work with 4D all the time, like because I grew up with them. You know, they're like they're 4D would probably be considered the old guard of Spanish casting, right? The people that really worked for the scene, right? unfortunately, English, most of those people turned out to be evil. But in in English, you'd have the equivalents of like 40 wouldn't even be OD Pixel. 40 would be something like capitalist, right? Like someone that's been in the scene forever. I mean, probably Zyori would fit that mold as well. Like the LD, the winter, the kind of people that just hustled, right? And since I grew up with them, we have a lot of trust between us. And they were the ones that had a contact with Valve. I just say to ask for that money to sponsor the tournament. Valve was just kind of looking, at least at that time, desperate for just answers. Like they wanted, hey, can someone organize a tournament? And the reality is that the only real org that can organize tournaments in South America are them and Live Media, right? And are reliable enough, right? So I think, to be honest, Valve was kind of doing this as a test because 4D is kind of new and they don't know them as much as TO. They're casters, but not TOs. And so they probably gave them this money partially as a test to see if they could pull it off, right? They can do something like Realms Collide 2. And the only reason we got hired is because genuinely I was like, guys, who is going to cast South America more than a guy that speaks Spanish? Please let me do this. I beg of you. And they allowed it to give us a license. But we didn't have contact particularly with Valve. It was all 4D. 4D was all the part of sponsoring and making sure they got the prize pool, etc. Which, by the way, hasn't been paid yet. I want to point out. The prize pool, no. I mean, the Valve money to 4D has not been paid yet. I don't care being a whistleblower here. They took forever.
So this is from 2020, right? I'm wrapping my brain around this. It took me a minute.
Like November tournament.
Yeah, so this was when Valve was getting flamed for being silent and not doing anything to help anyone during the COVID times. We kind of burned through the Omega League and the couple of like Dota pits and these like one-off events that happened. And then it just felt like this web of nothingness. So before DPC was formally announced and locked in, they gave some I think they supported the summit as well in North America. Maybe they did something in Southeast Asia. It wasn't just this, right? There was a series of investments they made to try to...
One of the ESLs, one of the LPGs as well.
Yeah.
Well, two of the LPGs, technically, because he split them into two. But this tournament was planned beforehand. They just planned it with half the prize pool, and then Valve was like, what if we double the prize pool?
So it was like the summit. The summit was the exact same thing. We're doing this already, but if you could give us some more money for the prize pool, then this event gets a lot cooler, and we can do other stuff.
Yep. Yeah, I guess I was meaning like South American collaborations with Valve. But yeah...
that's one of the difficult. I've always tried to say this in the scene that that's one of the most forgotten about. I don't even think Valve, right? Like most TOs don't want to collaborate with South America in general, let alone like the Spanish cast or anything. They just kind of forgo it altogether. I mean, I've mentioned this before. I'd actually mentioned this in the interview they gave, or one of the interviews I did for Live Media. But it is very telling that like when you in the English scene, when you talk about SA Dota, the name that comes to mind is Moxie. Not as an insult to her. She's a great caster. She did a really good job for the scene. I'm really happy she existed. But it wasn't a South American caster. It was never that these guys got any bit of notoriety or any bit of recognition for their work. It was immediately the moment a North American paid attention to the scene, because before that was Grant. The moment a North American paid attention to the scene, now she's the South American caster. What about the guys that have been hustling there for ages, right? I feel like the treatment of them has not been very fair in general. Yeah. And most people don't want to just indirectly contact them or through anyone.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's such a hard thing to comment on because it sounds like you're knocking on Moxie, and you're not.
Yeah,
and I've been in that same situation. One thing I always say to people to delineate it is I think it's hard for anyone who's like pretty purely a play-by-play commentator to be a champion of a region like that. And I use myself as an example. Like after Grant parted ways with Dota, there was a ton of that dialogue of like, all right, NA's up for grabs. Who's the new NA person? And then there were a couple of like play-by-play tier 2 NA commentators that were tweeting stuff like, hey, I would like to be the next Grant. Like, bitch, what do you mean you'd like to be? Like, that's not, it doesn't, it's organic. You got to, it's like, I can't, if it were just a matter of like a function of time, why am I not in line? Or why isn't Dakota in line? And it's like, because we're play-by-play commentators. Grant was like a player with a lot of those guys. He played Dota at a higher level and would like play in in-houses. And there's like a level of respect on a competitor level there that I have never had and will never have with any of the players in any region. They respect me as a hype guy and a desk host, and that's cool. That's my job, but it's not, they don't respect me as a Dota player. They don't look at my MMR and have any sense of, this fucking guy knows what's going on. They just respect the skin in the game that, like, obviously he cares about Dota. Fans need a mouthpiece. It's part of the system. It's cool, but it's totally a different form of respect, and that means you have access to a different layer of information, and it's really hard, man. Dota players are a hard beast to crack. They're hard to communicate with, and if you're not on that 8K MMR level, like, I see the way Jenkins talks to me compared to how he talks to Capitalist and Newsham. He likes me, but he likes me in a different way. You know what I mean? I'm not on the same level as his buddies that can actually queue Dota with him and, like, fucking keep up. So anyway, slash rant. It's just it's a very nuanced fucking thing to say, and it's just tough.
I mean,
man.
maybe if that seven loss streak didn't happen, man, it could be closer.
Yeah, right. I mean,
Just a straight up flame now.
well, I'm just pointing this out as, like, I don't think any of it's bad. I don't even mean it as, like, a critique of the system. It's just an observation of the system, right? It's just fundamentally, you can't just show up with your clipboard as a play-by-play caster in the player room, be like, hey guys, tell me all the things that I need to know about Dota so I can look good on the panel. Like, it has to be more organic than that. You have to be able to develop the understanding yourself, to be able to talk to them on that level, to be able to dig out these storylines and this big information. It's just it's a complicated social system, and I think
the grind is underrated too, because
Yeah.
Brent did a lot of, like,
a lot of years.
He was there for a while.
A lot of years.
Like, obviously, not only the grinding, like, you definitely knew what he was talking about. He was
A lot of hours.
entertaining for a lot of people that watch his content.
A lot of pub games. You know, it's like,
it's a combination of a lot of things.
It's easy to
Yeah, but not-
underestimate.
Because I'm also uncomfortable kind of praising
But
Grant
yeah,
at all. But
I would love to see more of that straight
Yeah.
South American representation.
the issue with that though is that also Grant got a lot of opportunities. I feel like if you gave a person, say, the opportunities, like even a tier 2 caster, to cast all these
True.
games in one scene, right? Because one thing that Grant did do that a lot of tier 2 casters refused to do, which I approve of course, and myself included, is he recasted a bunch of games. So what he used to do is, I'm not getting any coverage, no problem, I'll recast it. Which is, hey, great for you and your brand, but terrible for the scene in general. Terrible for the guy who got a gig and finally got the opportunity that you were taking from him this whole time, not because any of you deserved it. And this one guy gets crushed immediately, right? It's very easy to be the king of the region if you do that. That's why Moxie's so impressive, because she never did that. She never took gigs away from people. That's why a lot of respect towards her.
Yeah. It's really hard culturally too. Like, just as a non-Spanish speaker, I found it like it's such a bottleneck having to Google Translate like every single interaction you want to have with someone, and all of the content has all these, like, I even talked to Dota Pit about just the amount of extra effort that has to go into everything to subtitle it in all 3 languages, have it all cross-translated, have it all edited. Like, it's a lot. It's kind of overwhelming, and you have a lot of days where it doesn't feel worth it compared to the ease of being able to just turn on an English stream and understand what's going on, right? So
that's the feeling that other regions get though with their content. I remember, like, when one of the big things when in the Spanish scene was starting to, like, properly grow and the casting were starting to be watched by people, one of the big turning points were the Valve majors, because they actually, Kiev major was the first one to have an official Spanish broadcast for, like, a tournament that wasn't just 2 guys in a room, but like a studio broadcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the biggest things they had is they brought me over, and I was the live translator for that, and that never happened before. Until then, all the pieces of content that were done by Valve were just not seen by Spanish viewers. Nobody that couldn't speak English could watch it. And I realized how much it sucked. And mind you, I was just speaking over the voices, right?
Mm-hmm.
But even in that situation, right, I was for the Kiev major, I was casting, analyzing, and translating. So I got 0 breaks over an 18-hour period usually. And it was hell for me, of course. But when you hear the people saying, hey, I can finally understand this video, thank Christ they brought this guy they brought this guy over, because I wouldn't be able to engage, you feel, this should be something that regions look into more. There should be much more concern for the international viewers and for the rest of the communities. Everyone should feel included. It shouldn't be easy for anyone.
The DPC system in general is trying to kind of bridge that gap a little bit, right? Because I think there's been, at least like the coverage, you have different languages across all regions. I think
they moved the minimum bar a little
trying
bit.
to deal with that.
Yeah. I mean, from the English-speaking TO side, it's one of these weird things where it's like a slightly non-capitalistic ask within a purely capitalistic system. And to me, that's one of those, for the good of Dota, it needs to be as accessible as possible. But who's the one that benefits disproportionately from it being accessible? It's fucking Valve. So they're the ones that need to put the investment in to like make that happen. As just a random third-party tournament organizer trying to make Midas Mode 2 happen with a super razor-thin budget, I make literally zero off of other languages, and it takes resources to manage other languages. So it's like lowest on the list and like the first thing to get chopped. And it's shitty, but it's the reality of that intensity of like, I'm losing money on this event. I have to cut everything I can that's not essential. And yeah, it sucks that the people that don't have the razor thin margin haven't always prioritized it in the past. It seems like they are now, though. I mean, I saw the anime is going to be in like 35 languages or something. I think that's pretty cool. I saw that and was like, holy fuck, dude, we're moving the needle. It just made this little tick. It's like I can see it. I can see the movement. This is awesome. Like that was cool.
Speaking of the anime, I saw a Reddit thread from your cast. I don't remember which game was, but there was a Darkseer. And you were make some jokes, some weeb jokes, and I wanted to hear about your relationship with anime. Like, do you just like know about it and just like did a joke? Do you actually watch it? And what's your perception of the Dota anime?
Well, I'm a big fan. I mean, I know we joke it's an anime. Technically, it's not an anime. It's American animation. So I think that should tell you enough how much of a weeb I am.
Yeah.
No, I actually don't watch many anime. I think it's okay. Like, I think some animes are okay. The style, I think, is a bit... I'm not gonna lie. I feel like if I watch a lot of it, it's very formulaic. So especially besides the top ones, I watch like the classics. Some are amazing. I watch like Paranoia Agent. I watch Parasite. I watch the Ghibli films. But I am an incredibly avid manga reader. I read a lot of manga. Like I'm talking in my life, maybe over 1,000 like mangas. I think easily over 50,000 chapters in total. I like reading a lot. Like it's. Yeah, I read a lot of manga. And then Richie makes fun of me all the time for that because he literally, every time after a cast, I will go to my couch and I'll start reading manga. That's all I do. It's like cast Dota, I read manga, and then I study stats, and that's all I do during my day. And so Richie made that joke because of that. He doesn't know what to call me, though, because he's like, there's no word for a manga reader.
It's not quite weeb, not really accurate. It's something.
I mean, it's the ultimate weeb. I'm the elitist weeb.
Yeah,
I read the book first weeb.
The anime sucks, dude. You should have read the manga.
Everybody loves that guy.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Are you hyped for it though? Like, do you actually think it? Like, where are you on the spectrum of this will make a difference? Are you on the Slack side of we need a tutorial to catch people that get caught in the skimmer, or are you on the side of like, yeah, this is going to be cool, but watching it and playing it are totally different? Anybody that watches this and has never heard of the game is going to be very disappointed when they realize what the game is actually like.
I am on the Slack side. I mean, I'm also on the beggars can't be choosers side. So I've been asking for Valve to market the game, and they released this. So it's like, thank God, I'll take it, whatever.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting it. I mean, maybe. I don't know. I feel like to me, The Witcher did that for me a bit, right? I wasn't a fan of the games, and I read the books, actually, not the which is interesting because the books obviously came first. But I read the books that someone recommended to me, and I was like, oh, I want to play these games now, right? So has happened to me. I understand for Dota is a bit different because the competitive aspect's a bit difficult to get into.
Mm-hmm.
I do think it's going to bring a fair amount of new players, though. I mean, I know a lot of League players that just play it because of their lore. I say lore in a very flex way. When I really want to say their misogyny, they go, oh, I love the character X. She's very hot. I'm playing it because of her. And I'm not kidding. I know a lot of people that play casually just based on that. So
did you did you have any thoughts about? I'm curious, Bowie, if you saw this as well. The marketing campaign with their latest champion, I think that weird augmented reality where they took the character and then pasted her into the real world. And
I didn't see that.
It was like a big marketing. I forget what is it. Seraphine, I think is the character's name.
Yeah, Seraphine. Yeah, that was her name.
And she's in like they made up a K-pop band or something called like Diva, and so the character's in it. And there's there's social media accounts, and it's all the posts are from the first person perspective, like kind of pretending like the character's a real person.
Mm-hmm. I've seen that part. I heard of that.
They specifically caught a lot of flack for one of their posts on Twitter after the character was pretty established, was they did like a marketing thing where she was talking about mental health and how she was feeling down and needed people to like send her positive messages to build her up and all this kind of stuff. And then that was kind of the beginning of the end. But I don't know if it was regarded as successful. I think you're right, Avo. It's like a lot. You read the Twitter thread and you'd be like, wow, this was a disaster. But I bet you look at the numbers and it's like, yeah, they sold a fuckload of these skins. Like, I bet you the sales were staggering because, I mean, the engagement on that stuff was nuts. I mean, it worked from a like going viral kind of perspective.
But it's really creepy though, right? I mean, I don't know. When I saw that, I was like, this is especially when they gave her a personality. Because I thought... that, you know, you see it at first, you go and see that she's making posts as a person, and she like had posts like I think of her at the beach and stuff like that, which again, as per usual, Riot is like, oh, let's sexualize. Oh, we have a character, let's sexualize her. But once the mental health started, because it wasn't that just that tweet. She had a couple of posts that were like related to potential suicidal thoughts and stuff like that.
Oh, really?
Like,
yeah. Yeah,
and you know, I've experienced that kind of situation before, not firsthand, but with people, you know, in my close proximity that I've dealt with that. And when I feel people making jokes, people always get offended by the suicide jokes, and I think that's fine personally, because when you're coping with that situation, it's like jokes help you, so jokes don't feel that bad. Now, when you try to use it to make money, now that's crossing a line.
Yeah.
When it's a marketing campaign, that's too much.
I was like, I wanted to believe at first, like, well, is this representation, right? Could there be a way to write this character where it's talking about mental health in a way that's like constructive and moving the needle on the dialogue? I think that is possible. I think that's not what they're doing. And it's abundantly clear that they just decided to add that little mechanic in when the marketing team thought, oh, wow, according to our research, this could really get a lot of engagement. It was never like part of the character's lore, or like, I don't believe for a second that was what they were actually trying to do there. It's just min-max and fucking sales. That's the whole, it's all psychological manipulation. And I agree. It's pretty
scary.
Pretty fucked.
Do you want to buy from a company that does that to you? You know, it's like, oh, do I buy from this company? Do I donate to the government of North Korea? Like, my two options.
Yeah, can I return my Valorant skins, Riot? This will not stand. And I send these things back. Yeah, you got to count your blessings, I guess. It's like Riot does a lot of stuff policy-wise to try to move the needle from a social justice perspective. I don't say that in a bad way. I mean that, seriously. But a lot of it seems topical at the end of the day compared to their company culture. And sometimes I wonder with Valve, where it's like, I wish there was more on the policy side, but on some weird fucked up level, I can appreciate a little bit that they're at least real. They're not like posting an agenda and then their culture is completely different. They just have a culture that's sort of oblivious to this stuff, as it would appear, which is still not great, but it is different, right? Like the Riot thing stings a little more. It's like, all right, now you guys are phony balonies, man. This is all just corporate fucking showmanship, and Valve has faults, but showmanship is not one of them, right?
I was actually trying to talk, like I was talking to my girlfriend about this, because like in general, the Dota heroes, they're not sexualized like League of Legends, right? I think we can all agree.
Comparatively, yeah. LC's wearing armor. Yeah.
Exactly. So,
that's the argument we always
I definitely feel like that realness aspect you're talking about, where like, yeah, maybe there's not a lot of like written rules about sexism and racism in Dota, but I do feel like from like how could you say it? Oh my god, I forgot how to speak. I just feel like they care about these things more than other companies, but it would be nice to have like written rules about some other stuff, right? I guess the grass is always greener on the other side.
Yeah, it is this weird, like, I want rules, but not too many rules. I just want these really specific rules. But I also would delineate that like a code of conduct is a little bit different from like a rule set, right? And having a basic code of conduct, defining what it means to be a professional player and just saying, hey, you're now congratulations on making it to the DPC. Welcome to the DPC. You suck at PR. Let's go over a couple of things to ensure your career goes the way you want it to. We want to see you succeed. Like, just very basic stuff like that. It wouldn't take a lot of resources. I mean, like, it could be made by a third party. I think it carries more weight if it's made by the Dota gods themselves. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Rules isn't even, that's like a few steps down the road. I'm talking just baseline expectations. Let's just make it very clear, translate it in every language we need to. That is really my big ask. I think I'm curious what you think, Avo, with the Jericho situation. Does that fall in this same kind of umbrella where I think he maybe knew a little more, like this sort of like, I don't know, like, come on, man, you've been in the game a long time. Someone at some point has had this conversation with you, I would hope, but you don't know what you don't know, right? This whole idea, well, I thought match fixing was just intentionally throwing. I never thought about insider information before. I'm sure that's true for some players in the DPC. We got a lot of new players in the DPC this first season. Let's just clarify that. Let's lay out the definitions and just clarify it so people can't say, I didn't even know. I've literally never heard that before. I don't know if it's true or not, but it's a really fucking good excuse when it's not written down.
I honestly am on the side of like, I think it's mostly ignorance. I think most of the issues South America has been purely ignorance. I mean, I can actually tell you a story because when the Jericho thing, I actually found out about it right after a stream because one of my viewers, he sent me a message on Instagram and he goes, "Hey Avo," I remember this message because I was like, "What?" Because this is after my cast. I finished the cast. I was like, "Hey Avo, Jericho just bet for himself on his own stream. Is this a good idea? Should I bet on him too?" And I go, "No. Do not do this. Do not do this." And he goes, "But Jericho says it's okay." I'm like, I said the words, with all due respect, con todo el respeto, Jericho's un pendejo. So Jericho's an idiot. Like, he is a moron. He should not be doing this on stream. This is I was so certain it was gonna backfire. But it was such a genuine message, and my viewers like, "Oh, thank you so much. I was afraid of doing something unethical." So, I mean, I'm glad that he asked me at least, right? But the majority of time, it is that people are searching for like that kind of ethical compass, and something I have seen as well in the South American scene, and some people might not agree with, but there are some people that take advantage of the lack of an ethical compass to set their own ethical compass, and this becomes very dangerous. A lot of people that speak out in their own favor, and they go, no, I'm doing this for the good of the community kind of situation. So there's a lot of players that are just very misguided, and the issue is that whenever South America makes a mistake, and I think in the Jericho situation, you actually, thanks to the podcast and everything, and thanks to Swado, and thanks to we all speaking to Jericho, going, Jericho, you're a moron. There was a bit more talk about it. But, and for example, I remember when Atun got banned for making the macros, for having the macros on his mouse, right? And then he demonstrates how the macros work on his mouse like a totally oblivious idiot, unaware of what's happening, because he doesn't realize that that's illegal. That's against, like, sportsmanship, whatever. When that happened, nobody even went to Atun and went, hey, this is bad because of this. The comments, particularly from a lot of, except for like some talent, like Syndrome made a post trying to be understandable, but a lot of talent, particularly those like crusaders for fairness and justice, just proceeded to put him on blast. Like, there's no way this man could not know what he was doing. I don't know, dude. You don't know what it is to be from a culture where they don't have access to the breadth of information us English speakers do.
Yeah, I think the fact that there's like no substitute for Reddit on South America speaks a lot, because I feel like in general people are very alienated from like the conversations and common sense that we as like Reddit users and like this international community have. So I agree to some extent. I feel like ignorance is a big part of some of these issues.
It is such a hard thing. It's like you always have to throw that, like, I'm not excusing racism, but how do we define ignorance? Ignorance literally means like you don't know better. You are uneducated. You're sort of like you don't quite understand the grasp of what's going on. That's why ignorant is a word that's different from hate speech, right? Ignorance is like, you're a fucking idiot. You need to, like, somebody needs to slap some sense. Somebody needs to sit down and have that talk. We've all been there, I think. Everyone was an edgy gamer at one point. Everyone's had that moment where you say something that's really offensive when you're like 12 years old. You don't even know why you said it. You just heard it on TV somewhere, or you saw somebody else say it out of context. It doesn't resonate for you. And somebody goes, dude, why the fuck would you say that? Holy shit, that was inappropriate. And then you get that reality check and it clicks. If you never get that moment, you just keep going on thinking that's okay. And some of us are, I think that's what privilege really means, right? Being raised in an infrastructure. Like, I think breadth of information is a perfect way to put it, man. That's right on point.
It's something I noticed because of my upbringing, particularly when I started dealing with a lot of when I started interacting with a lot of like American or British people, which is that I come from a country. Yeah, that may sound much worse. I come from a country where like there's 4 official languages in Spain, right? And unfortunately, a lot of the Spanish media, it's not the most free journalism, let's call it, right? So I noticed in my country, because of I'm from one of the ethnicities that's a minority, that we get a lot of hate from the Spanish media, and our side is never explained in the Spanish media. It's only explained in our language. So oftentimes when I meet with Spanish people that are from, like, say, Madrid, they don't speak my language. Like, at first it's easy to understand. At first it's easy to just hate them and scream at them and go, I hate you. Like, why do you hate me? I don't understand. This is just baseless. But then you realize this person not only hates you based on what other people have told them, so contextually they're already raised in that kind of environment, but they literally, unless they make a humongous effort, don't have the access to the information that you do. And this is not even talking about the international audience. I'm talking about, like, the basic information that I can read in my local news that they can't. They have no clue about anything that's going on in my country or in my part of the country, because they can't read it. And in America, that's different, right? A lot of the racists, there's nothing stopping you from not reading Fox News. And you could read more liberal newspapers. You could try to inform yourself with the whole spectrum. They all speak English. But in a lot of Hispanic countries, the issue comes to this. In Peru is very similar. Access. The issues with the Quechua is the same idea.
Yeah, I think that is, oh my God, dude, that's such a key piece of insight about the American lens. We take for granted that everything gets translated in and out of English. It's like the hub of languages internationally, right? But the further you get away from that hub and you get into these little spokes, the more regionalized shit gets, and the less stuff there is just translated into the local tongue. And it's like this funnel, right? And it gets even more localized the deeper you go down the rabbit hole away from these really popularized major languages like Mandarin or Russian, stuff like this. Holy shit. It's not even just like, hey, you had access to that document and you chose not to read it. It's, I can't even read the document, man. I gotta go out of my way. And like, you have this sort of, you have the temptation. I can already see the Reddit comments of like, well, just put it in Google Translator, dude. What do you mean? It's like, yeah, but how do you find the document when you don't speak the source language, right? Like, I've had that before. Like, how do I search for the Spanish-speaking Dota Facebook group? If I type in Dota Spanish, it doesn't come up because the group's all in Spanish. They don't write Spanish on it because they don't want gringos like me finding it. It's SEO'd for non-English speakers. That's the whole fucking point of it being a Dota Spanish group. So anyway, yeah, that's just such a key piece of insight, man. Holy shit. Sorry. I'm just, brain's exploding right now. Like it's actually a matter of access. Like it's not willful ignorance at all. It's like forced ignorance.
That's why it goes back to what we were saying earlier, that every time I see one of these scandals, I was like, all right, great. Like, yeah, the person was racist, this is bad, but can we do something about it? Like, can we start initiating these programs to try to educate the players? Can we start investing money into having a scene that has less sexism and less racism in general by actually doing something about it? Not just waiting till a problem pops up, then whacking it like you're playing some sort of racist whack-a-mole and you're going, oh, there we go. One more down. Wait till the next one pops up. It's just a matter of time.
Racist whack-a-mole. I love it, dude. I love it. Are you overall optimistic about South American Dota? I maybe just Dota in general. Like, a lot of casters I talk to in the tier 1 are neutral at best. It's not a secret that a lot of them are diversifying, right? Cap's doing voice acting work. Sheever hosted some Counter-Strike. ODPixel's the only one that's just like, no, I just like Dota, mate. It's just all Dota for me. Are you like...
ODPixel really now.
Yeah, I always say...
Melbourne.
Well, like, so it's true. That was an offensive accent. But like... I always like use Owen as my far right on this spectrum. Like, are you on the ODPixel side of Dota esports? They're like, it'll all be fine. Dota's fucking Dota. I love it so much. I know other people love it. You know, being the TI Grand Finals caster it's a unique mindset, right? So I get it. And then the other side are like, you know, the people like me that just keep bitching about how much Dota is failing and how if we don't fix stuff, it's going to fail faster. I'm curious where your barometer is, and then specifically with South America.
Well, in Dota in general, I probably would be on your side, where I constantly, I try to use my voice for good because I want this game to last longer, and I'm worried that it might not last longer. It is a worry on my mind, right? But I'm also in the ODPixel side in the sense that, despite the fact that I'm not even not even a tenth as accomplished that man is, or will probably ever be, to be honest. That guy's a legend, but when I got into esports, I mean, I've got offered a lot of gigs to do other games as well, particularly in Spanish. I had a lot of opportunities to leave Dota for better gigs and better games, like what I actually would be getting a lot of money now. And I always said no. I'm only doing esports for Dota. Really, I just love this game. So in my mind is like, yeah, I can worry all I want, but I'm not leaving this game. Like if Dota dies, I'm going back to becoming a software engineer. That's why I have a career in it. Like there's no way I'm just jumping ship or doing voice acting. It's just purely Dota. So both ideas exist in my mind of we have to improve this, but also I'm drowning with the ship. I will sink with the ship.
I feel like
happily.
I'm becoming that guy. In my head, I used to think of like, I mean, Dota's my game now. Like I started in StarCraft 2. So in my head, I've always been, you know, I don't want to chase clout, but I'm open to this idea of doing multiple games. I do follow esports at large, not just Dota. Yeah. Like Lacoste is somebody else I know where he says like, I fuck esports. I'm Dota. It's just Dota. Dota is the only esport I care about. Everything else, I couldn't care less. But the longer I stay exclusively in Dota, the more I'm kind of like, God, everything sucks, and Dota sucks less than most of the other stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
I agree with that.
It's all bad. This is just less bad. So we should really count our blessings and enjoy most of the freedoms that we've got. Where are you on that scale, Bowie? How are you feeling? Optimistic these days, because you've gone through hard times as a talent. This is one of the better spots you've been in, Mr. DPC caster. So like you're like Dota trajectory. Your graph is like at all-time highs right now. But how does that correlate for your thoughts about Dota at large, like 5 years out, let's say?
So I think during COVID, where we actually didn't know what would happen with DPC, most tournaments were like in Europe. I was very pessimistic about Dota's future. Right now, especially with the anime, I feel like it did shift a little bit. Like I definitely share Lacoste's opinion about Dota. I think I was always open about other games, but I just cannot play them, you know. And I really like being good at what I do. I just don't feel like I would, like, if someone asked me to cast Valorant or something, like I don't think I would do it well. So I think Dota is the best esports game by a mile, and I just love it. So yeah, I think I share Avo's perspective pretty much. I want it to get better. I do have my fears, but I think that's probably the best we have in terms of esports games.
So what you guys are affirming my latest working theory. I have all these like theories that I think I'm going to turn into blogs. Then I write a third of it and go, "This is garbage," and then it just gets retired. But my latest working idea is that Dota is just a giant passion project, and all of our woes are that we're trying to jam this square-shaped business model into a round-shaped passion project whole, and everything it comes back to, and I look at these orgs that are really successful, and on the outlook, you think, man, they're slaying it. They've got all these sponsors, they got all this, all that, and you look under the hood and try to understand why. Like, here's a good thought experiment for you. Of the top 10 esports teams in the world by valuation, what percentage of them have Dota teams? Guess what? It's not many, right? It's like Liquid is up there. That's kind of number one. Why is Liquid the only S-tier esports org that invests in a Dota team still? The answer is because they've been in it for a long time, and key people at Liquid really fucking like Dota. That's the answer, because they know how. Most other people don't know how. All things equal, they wouldn't get into it now if they hadn't already been in it, right? It was a good opportunity way back when, and you have this sunk cost, and there's people there passionate about it. A lot of these big sponsors, like, oh my God, how did they get Gillette? Because some gatekeeper at Gillette plays fucking Dota and likes it and wants to support it. That's the answer, like 9 times out of 10. It's not some objective business decision. It's not because of the business models. It's not because we've got these scalable enterprises. All that buzz has expired. All those people that were riding the growth have come and left. They're focused on the next cutting edge thing. And what we're left with are just all the bozos like us that want to create passion projects around the thing that we like. Exactly what you said, Avo. I've got a real job. I fucking love Dota. If I can contribute to make this place better and do some work on the side, that's fucking awesome. But I'm in it for Dota. I'm not in it for esports. That is Dota in a nutshell. And that's why we're on this little island, because we're not ride or die with esports like everyone else. We're just ride or die with our own little bubble. It's all rooted on passion.
To cement the idea and also speak nicely about my Spanish casting mates, there was one moment where and Riot was trying to make their waves in South America, right, and particularly Peru, because South America is mostly League, but the more passionate and the biggest fans tend to be in Peru and actually Bolivia, which is mainly Dota, right? So ironically, League is not full of passion because South America, they compete with a bunch of other esports. Dota is exclusive. So Riot at one point, they tried to poach like literally every single Dota caster that was doing it in Spanish for South America. So it was me and a bunch of other people. And so they brought them in Peru, me in Spain, because I was living in Barcelona at the time because I was like 16, which is very funny. And they tried to poach us, and they brought us to the offices. They show you around the offices. For me, it was Media Pro, which is one of the biggest, by the way, media conglomerate in Spain in general. Like not just in esports, like they own everything, like almost major television stuff like that. They show you around. They put a contract on the table. It was like, I think it was for each of us around 4K a month, more or less. I can't remember the figures exactly, but it was around that, which is ridiculous back then.
That's
so people get perspective. I was earning maybe $200 a month at best, like on a good month back then. So we were all doing that. Like we were earning literal peanuts because Spanish casting didn't even take off. And without a doubt, every single one of us said no to that deal. We came back, we had a Discord call, and we laughed at Riot for thinking they could buy us. Like, dude, we're doing Dota. We're idiots. We're not going to do this for money. It's been too long gone that we're going to move to League of Legends now.
Wow.
And it was a very endearing experience. But I think that's literally what Dota is about. Just a bunch of people who are honestly stupid from a financial sense. They could be much more successful in other games, but they choose to stay because they just love Dota.
That happened with Brazilian
more and
casters
more.
as well.
I'm not surprised. Yeah.
We had a poaching. I mean, it's been a while. I think it's been like 6 or 7 years ago. And most of the ones that actually migrated to League of Legends actually quit. So it's
there you go.
Yeah.
Validate me, Bowie. Validate my choice because my parents never would.
I mean, money's nice, but yeah, we had that thought at Moonduck with both Overwatch and PUBG, like that exact same dialogue, dude. Both those games came out like they were ripe for the picking, and after whatever it was, a month or two of Overwatch, I think we had an internal conversation of like, anybody like this game like enough to champion leading our events? Anybody like this game enough to want to toe the Blizzard line? And it was just kind of a ubiquitous, nah, not really. This just isn't doing it for me. It was a fun month. Don't get me wrong. Same with PUBG. We did like, 4 Moonduck PUBG events. We did a combo thing with the Canada Cup guys, and it was okay. But after 3 or 4, it was like, this is already feeling like a grind. Like, I don't really care about this. I don't really know what to talk about this. It's not fun. It's not feeding my soul. If they were overpaying us to do this, I'd be down. But just doing tournaments, like when we do a 10K elimination mode, it's fucking thrilling. It's fun. It's satisfying. It's soul food. Like, I'm happy to break even on the event just to do it because it's fun. PUBG was not like that. It's like, if I'm breaking even, I'm not interested. This is not worth my time because there's no passion. It's purely just you're an hourly type mindset, I guess.
That's a great term, by the way. Soul food. I'm gonna steal that.
Yeah,
if you don't mind, that's an awesome term.
For sure. No, you got to fill it up.
Yeah.
Well, season 2 of DPC, I guess we should wrap this thing up. But we've gone over. There's been a lot of broad stroke changes. People have suggested bottom 2 getting prize dollars, relegation matches getting played between the 4 teams that would move across uppers and lowers, all these kind of things. Better distribution in the majors. What are your priorities? And, season 2, are we going to see you casting more? Anything you can talk about or hype up for us? I guess we're still a little ways away.
I can't say anything yet, but I will be present in the DPC. Thank God.
Okay.
Because right now, as a caster, you know how it feels like, right? You're waiting for your invite for the DPC and going, "Am I dead for 3 months? Nope.
Yeah.
Get to live for another 3."
Now it's just TI 4 times a year. Like, all right, am I in or am I out?
Very brutal. It was nerve wracking. I was having Richie and I were convinced we were not going to get DPC. In fact, we only got DPC by chance, to be honest. Corona actually helped us. That was why we got Division 2 CIS. Because
reliable remote casters, man. There's a demand.
Yeah, exactly. That's what happens.
It's true.
So yeah, hopefully I get to do SA next season as well. That's my goal as well. If you guys need a Spanish English guy in your coverage, I'd happily join you guys. But I think for next season, I'm hoping for just more structure in general, right? I feel like this first season was a bit rushed. A lot of the players were complaining about this. I'm not the biggest fan of a lot of the kicks that we're seeing right now. And the savageness, I guess, the cold kicks that are just like, oh, you're pretty much screwed until TI. Like for this whole year, you're screwed if we kick you now. But also, I don't really care, and we're gonna leave you on the wayside. I think there's a lot of
for bringing me
examples.
to Division 1, though. That was cool.
That was
Yeah.
awesome. I actually
Yeah.
did comment on that. I love the Bowies included. I thought that was great. I think you should get him for the next season as well. Just
It does seem weird. I totally agree with you, though. It seems like if we were designing, like the task is, all right, fellas, design a DPC system. We come up with draft 1. It fits some of the basic modeling. It hits the broad stroke stuff, and we go, this looks great. Ship it. And then the reality is you didn't really think about the nuances and the little details, and like you didn't play out a full simulation of where the threads can really go wrong. That's kind of what it feels like. Like it hit the broad stroke check boxes, but there was a lot of, we definitely just live beta tested this thing, like 100%. And that is not unexpected maybe, but just sometimes a little frustrating. It's like, man, I feel like we could have run a little simulation on this and maybe thought about like things that seem very obvious now that we've had 6 weeks and then some to really digest it.
It smells Valve, right? Like when you look at, Hoodwink introduced to the game. All right, this hero is a carry, is a mid, is an offlaner, is a position 5. We're just going to leave it there for 2 months, and when we feel like fixing it, we will. Like it just feels like they do a lot of stuff.
Where are the fucking team bundles? Where are the fucking team bundles, dude?
That is a
yeah.
Like, come on. Like, is there like any just as you said earlier in this podcast, Avo, I don't feel bad calling this one out. Like, where's the money, dude? You came to us and offered us money, and now we can't. Like, we're like stringing along the people that need the money because you haven't paid us yet. Why? What is happening right now? Just give us the money or don't. But why are we stuck in limbo? I feel you there.
Yeah. To be fair, though, in that sense, 4D actually paid all their teams out of their own pocket and are waiting to be reimbursed. So kudos to them, dude.
Oh, fuck.
That organizer, man. If you ever meet,
that's a lot of money, right?
If this is my moment, small shout out to 4D, particularly to one of the owners, Adrian Mome. That guy, he came into the scene completely new. He was a small TO for like small amateur organizers. Finally got to make 4D. 4D is the closest thing you'll get to a community backed kind of like TO. Right? It's absolutely beautiful.
That's a page out of the Moonduck, man. Moonduck book, man. That's exactly how we used to do it. Like a lot of the other studios or like kind of middle groups that end up doing hiring for events, it's always this cash flow. Well, we'll pay you when we get paid. And it really sucks to do an event and you know that they get to benefit from it. And then 6 months later, you're still waiting to collect your $5,000 or whatever it is. It's like, that's not an insignificant sum of money, man. I could use that to do stuff. I like to buy things. I got to get a new car too. I think that's that is something not talked about enough that gets tossed under the bus a lot. This like talent just get roped into events and kind of accept it with these handshake agreements. And it's like, who am I collecting from becomes a question after the fact. And really that should be, you should be paid after services are rendered as a contractor. That's how it works. You showed up, you did the gig, you fit the specs, you get paid. That this whole like, well, we're waiting for the sponsors. Like, yeah, that's your fucking problem, man. I hope they pay you. Where my invoice is due. We had an agreement. They're disconnected transactions, right? It's a weird thing that gets floated onto talent somehow so regularly. Sometimes it's just because you don't have the money, right? That's certainly a reasonable explanation.
But you have less flexibility in the PO, though. As a talent, as an individual, right? You don't have the cash flow they do. So if you lose this X amount of money to you might mean the difference between you eating that month and you not eating that month, whereas to the TO, usually...
It's very rare that the TO literally doesn't have the money. However, I say that lightly because I have done Moonduck events where that has literally been the case of like, all right, like I've said this before, but like Captain's Draft 4, we lost like more than $50,000 on that event. So after the event's done, you're looking at the books just like, okay, so some big decisions got to be made here. Like, hey, Purge, you mind floating that talent fee for a couple months? Like I've been there where you really are you just don't have the money because some shit goes wrong and disasters happen and whatever else. So I try not to assume the worst from everyone, but if you don't hold them accountable, then everyone will always pretend like they don't have the money, and that's just how it goes. So can't be doing that.
It's not about witch
Yeah.
hunting. It's about the seeking explanations, right? Like if I'm
Yes.
not going to get paid on time, I would like for you to go and say, hey, this is why. Just communicate with me. I've had events where they haven't paid me for a year, 2 years sometimes. I remember getting a $60 pay 2 years late for like I don't know, event I did a while ago. I think it was one of WCG's.
Jeez.
It was $60, man. You tell me in 2 years you couldn't find $60?
Yeah.
Come on.
Dude.
So that was. I used to always pay my co.
Don't get me started on those guys.
They haven't paid you either.
No.
Yeah,
I
have you
never
actually-
cast WSG, but like
Uh-huh.
a lot of teams that actually got substantial
yeah.
amount of money didn't get paid, and they're hosting another tournament right now. It just ended last week,
Yeah.
and I'm like all of these Brazilian teams are playing the tournament that they didn't get paid for, and I just don't understand how they can get the credibility to
Well,
keep running
because it's
those
the
events.
ultimate grift. You know, that's what the GESC guy said, right? That was his whole
Yeah.
response in that interview or statement, or whatever. It was like, well, how I don't have the money. It's all gone. It's the whole thing's fucked. So I couldn't pay you if I wanted to. But if you want me to be able to pay you back, the best way to do it is to do another event so that I can make it profitable, and then I'll use those profits to pay back the debt. I mean, that sounds great until you realize that he's just going to do it again for this recovery event and just double down on taking your money and then really fuck off. You're already dealing with soulless people that don't give a shit about the ethics of making promises and then not paying you the money for your labor. So it's just another grift for them. That slash shrug, that's business. Like, not really. Not to the rest of us.
I think all of us can agree that we actually love Dota. So like the fact that like people that cast Dota, I'm pretty sure this actually works for other esport games too. But like no one wants to be the guy that's like, all right, this tournament didn't pay me in 4 months.
Oh,
so you just keep quiet, right? Because you love the game and you want to keep casting, and like you're gonna lose a lot of opportunities if you don't. But
It doesn't
definitely
look.
sucks.
It doesn't look good for anyone. It's like you want to wield that power as a true last resort, because even if you end up getting paid, it's
Yeah, like it costs
everybody comes
more
out
money in the
bruised.
future.
Yeah, it's not good. It's just pay people.
It's not about the instance as well. I don't want me to get paid. Like, I don't want you to pay me for this event. I want this to stop happening, right? Like I can front it for 1, 2 events.
Right.
I don't want to have to do this every single time, right?
True,
That's
true.
my concern. That it feels like we never deal like these are all systemic issues, and we always deal with the individual instances of these issues, and we just ignore the systemic problem altogether. And then it's just wait till the next Reddit thread to hope that maybe discussion goes and someone actually pops up on the Reddit thread and goes, "How about we don't let TOs do this anymore? Like, how about from now on, right?
Yeah.
I'll
But-
forgive your debt. I don't care."
Some things have changed as well. I mean, I think ESL is notorious for being very bad in terms of talent relations, and over the course of like 5 years or so, turning it around completely and now being pretty notorious for being good with talent relations. So I think there are examples out there of how kind of union type talent efforts can make a fucking
Scary
difference. I mean, that is a scary word. I mean, it's not a union, but it's like it's a union type sort of, hey, if enough of the tier 1 talent that make this show happen say, I'm not working the next one unless you fucking pay me on time. Yeah, that's scary, right? They can't run the show without the 8 key people that they've invested in to build up the brand. So you can flex that leverage sometimes when it needs to be flexed, let's say. All right.
European here. That's awesome for me.
Yeah, man. So anything else we got here, guys? Should we wrap it up? And anything else grinding your gears, Avo? You want to get off your chest?
Oh yeah, just want to say because I thought we were going to talk about the DPC. So just one.
Oh
thing
yeah.
I want to talk about DPC.
Yeah, let's do
Which
it.
was, I think that Unknown's choice to change their support to Yadomi for Prada, or I don't know what his name's supposed to be pronounced now, but Prada is the
SCCHD.
Yeah. There's a name. There's a way to pronounce it that someone taught me, but I forget. Prada is what he's called. Forever.
Okay.
Yeah. That thing, that was one of the worst decisions I've seen a team make. I think that Unknown might have just blown their chances in the next season, honestly, by doing that. That's one of the biggest changes I saw, to be honest.
Damn. That's a pretty nice hot take there. Bowie? Do we agree? Do we disagree? That's
I gotta say, I was very disappointed with Prada this season. So I'm not sure how that player specifically is gonna mesh with Unknown. But like considering his pedigree and the fact that he's like a player for a long time, I definitely I didn't feel his impact in the first season. So he might be right, you know. I definitely felt like Yadomi was a good player.
Yadomi
Like
is
above
awesome, but
average.
the argument or what I was thinking is that Prada is from that old school of players where there's just good South American Dota, right? The problem is that good South American Dota, no offense, is just not good enough, right? You just
Yeah.
at this point you can't be recycling players that couldn't get to TI 3 years ago because the level right now is 10 times better, right?
Yeah.
And Prada is not necessarily from that old school as much, but his ideas are, I wouldn't call them innovative. They're just good. They're just fine, and he plays with a bunch of good players as well. What Yadomi was doing is because he comes from the Hamburguesa days, right? He was from one of the players from the stack that went to the minors before they changed him. He does bring a lot of innovative ideas in a very unique style, which made Unknown different. So right now, what I'm watching when I watched Unknown, particularly yesterday in the BTS Pro Series, is I'm watching a team that has no essence. There's nothing unique about this team. It's just another team of 5 good Dota players. Great. You're a middle of the table, maybe bottom of the table, but you're never going to get better because you don't have a defining style, which is what the majority of tier 2 teams need. And Yadomi was the person bringing that.
There's like this development period where you need to be okay to take some risks and some officials so that you can learn some stuff and develop. And
Exactly.
I sort of see what you mean, where it's almost like you're treading water. You'll put up games that look pretty close, but when you look at all the games in aggregate, you'll look back and go, yeah, wasn't really much development here over this 2-month period or 3-month period. That's all right. Well, that is definitely a bold claim coming into the second season, especially with Unknown. Like they were right on the cusp, right? They were right there with Infamous of what I would say a disappointing season, kind of upset by No Ping in a lot of ways.
No Ping changed players in between the tournament, right? So like it should be,
which made them better though, to be honest, because Mingate was not training with the team.
Oh, really?
True.
Oh. I didn't realize they didn't make it to the English community. Sorry. Yes, that was one of the reasons why Mingate was not that interested in training as much as his teammates were.
Oh,
and that's mainly the reason why they put the stand in. Yeah.
Wow. So is he? I guess
has there not insider information I just revealed by accident?
Well, I don't know.
No, but I'm actually wondering because I remember that they officially said that he flew back to his country because of
Bolivia. Because he didn't feel he wasn't happy, and so.
But when he flew, wasn't he already out of the team, or did he flew back and kept playing? Oh, so that was not explained.
Well,
so he wasn't happy with his time in Brazil. He said he missed Bolivia, right, which is where he's from.
Okay.
And so he told his team, "Hey, I can't play from here. I'm just too sad. I just can't play. I don't feel comfortable. I need to go to my home." Okay, cool. So the team flies him over. They fly him back to his own home. Everyone else stays in the team house, and Mingate then refused to, he proceeded to not train with the team, proceeded not to put the effort with the team, which then led them to be like, all right, we got to consider new options, right? Because it can't be that this man literally goes and says, I'm not comfortable here. You fly him, you do all this effort for him, and then you still proceed to not be, putting your 100% with the team.
Wow. So, I mean, for us, we were just told Mingate had health issues.
Shit.
Yeah.
I might have not been. I don't know if I could reveal.
No. They said he flew back, but what I understood from that was that okay, he's not feeling well. We're gonna send him back to his country so he can get treatment or whatever. But apparently,
real quick. This was the source on Liquipedia that we were officially. Okay. It was just the Facebook update from No Ping that kind of translates to it's a big day, something WESG. Mingate. Due to health problems, returned to Bolivia to recover. We wish him a quick and peaceful improvement, and that's it.
So yeah, that's what I mean. Like they said he's coming back because of health issues, and then he's out of the team. But what Avo is saying is that he flew back before they actually kicked him officially. Yes. So he was probably there for a while.
Yeah. I mean, it could be that they're referring to emotional health issues, right? It might not be necessarily physical health, because we always assume it's physical health.
Okay.
Could be mental health. I'm not really certain about that situation, but I do know that the team is super happy with HFN.
I mean, they beat a lot of big guys. They beat
he improved the team. Yeah, but it's the attitude as well, particularly because in that team, I know like Panda, whom I talk to regularly, he left his girlfriend in Peru to go to Brazil, and due to quarantine, when he comes back, he also can't see her because this was the period where Peru was still not closing in because his girlfriend's from a northern province, right? And he's from Lima, I believe. And then so he could not go visit her after he came back from Brazil. So he was completely losing out on this time, right? So then when this kind of idea of like other players going, oh, I know you made a sacrifice, but like I just can't do this, and then you still don't put your 100% when you're giving all the help possible. I know
Mm-hmm.
that did not grind his gears the right way. It did like frustrate him a bit.
Yeah,
I see.
Personally.
gotcha.
Which is understandable, right? I
Yeah,
understand it.
yeah.
I was very sad for his sacrifice when he told me about this because his girlfriend is a very sweet person.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's especially in these times. It takes a lot to get everybody in the same place. So I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. Well, that's an interesting little nugget.
I'm hoping I didn't reveal any. Like all of a sudden, I'm getting a message from Noping being like, "What are you
Avo
talking about?"
reviews.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're pretty okay. At least it's old news now. Maybe a good thing we waited to do this podcast until a couple weeks removed from DPC. But hey, it's still interesting. I mean, we kind of know that we get kind of the drip of information as stuff gets translated down to us. So we sort of do the best that we can. But man, I'm optimistic. When does season 2 start? Actually, because we still have the major to get through. It's still like
15th.
what 6 weeks
It's
away,
like a
or
month
something?
from now, right?
Month and a half, maybe.
5 weeks
April
from now.
13th, more or less.
April
9th or
13th.
April 13th.
Oh, okay.
Around that time, I forgot.
So it's actually kind of coming up, man. Enjoy the off time while we've got it here, boys, because the grind is coming back.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I'm hoping to do less regions this time. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, that
I actually
sounds
hope they
like
hire me for less.
a 24-hour schedule, man. So where can people find you, buddy? Are you streaming? You tweeting? What's where can we get the hot takes on a regular feed here?
You can find me at it's MrAvoPlus on Twitter and on Facebook, and then on Twitch and on Instagram you can find me as MrAvoPlus. Facebook is usually my platform from Spanish viewers, so expect Spanish posts there. There's where I probably put my hot takes. So if you want to see anything more personal about me, it's all going to be in Spanish.
There you go, English
Twitter is my
speakers.
queen.
The real hot takes need to be translated. There you go.
Well, because in all honesty, in Spanish I have many more followers, so I can actually figure the community. So whenever there's an issue or whatever, I'm like in the Mewtwo movement, right? I thought, yeah, why tweet about it with my 800, 900 followers when I can post about it with my 18K followers and inform a completely different audience, right? So when I make that choice, most of the time, any sort of big issue that I have any opinion or comment on, I try to always do it on Facebook. And also Facebook allows for posts that are longer than 140 characters. I don't understand how people can make properly debated things on Twitter. I never understood that from the English audience.
Twit longer,
near
dude.
impossible. Yeah, twit longer.
Yeah, but twit longer is only for Aki's. Like anytime someone goes about X on a twit, it's a meme at this point, dude. Every time I see a twit longer, I'm ready for the worst. They're always disgustingly bad. I don't want to read anymore.
That poor brand. You're right. Yeah, twit longer has just. It's just objective. Just like you're right. It somehow became that little the platform kind of perfect for that. Oh God.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awful.
You're right. You're right. All right, fine. We need a new one. Sorry, twit longer. We're moving on to the fresh one. All right. Well, another episode of SADPP done. This was a long one, but Avo, man, thank you so much for being here. This was awesome. So much insight. You are a very worldly man. I'm looking forward to hearing from you again. We'll have to bring you back on once season 2 kicks off to get all the insight here, all the scoops.
Yeah, I'd love to. It was very fun. Thank you for having me, Zyority. Big fan of yours and Bowie's work, and I gotta a special shout out to Bowie though, because I'm so happy that he got the DPC this season. I think it's a very well deserved. So I never got to tell you in person. I mean, I've watched your videos forever. I'm really happy you finally get an analyst spot. Honestly, it's
thank you very much.
Yeah, that was the
I mean,
first
thanks
thing
for
I
the
thought.
DPC system, right? Because I think the fact that you get these leagues really helps with the regional.
Yeah. I mean, I had that same thought though on one last note. I mean, you mentioned this earlier, Avo, but when I started hearing about talent lists for South America, when I found out Dota Pit was doing it, my first thought was, okay, who can we get that's actually from South America and can give us the scoop? Because I know Trent and I can read Dota buff. I know we can hype up the actual Dota, but who's going to give us the stuff beyond what we can find on the surface layer? And Bowie has been very key for that. So I'm glad he was available and not scooped up by... I was worried he was going to be scooped up by the Portuguese production. When I first threw your name in the ring, that was the very first thing that came back. Like, wasn't he going to be doing Portuguese? I thought he'd be the Portuguese guy. I was like, I don't know. I'll fucking ask him. I have no idea, actually. So it all worked out, buddy. It's been great. Looking forward to doing it again, man.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
In a month.
Yeah. Well, we'll see you on the next one, folks. Find us iTunes, Spotify, all that stuff. You know where to find us by now. We'll catch you on the next SADPP.